Hey, how's it going, you guys? Welcome back to some more Hello Lady. We are now officially going to be entering Tamao's route. I'm going to do hers first. You can actually choose between her and Soriko, and I like Soriko better, but I'm actually going to go into Tamao's route first. So anyways, I'm going to show you guys how you need to select to get onto that route. I do have like a guide that I had looked at, so I could figure that out, because obviously I don't know. But we're just going to go ahead and do that. So a few of these options I've already like kind of picked before, so you've already seen them if you've watched me. I'm not happy to be reminded of some of these scenes. So let's see, we'll go to the courtyard. We're just gonna keep picking these. A lot of these I've already picked so far, but I think soon we should be yeah, so I didn't select this one before, but we'll go to that one. And let's see, we'll go to the classroom. Now I think there's some new dialogue here that I hadn't seen before. This is probably what I should have done when I was playing the game, is going to the classroom, so I could have got some of this information. But I want to listen to what she says, because she's talking about the different types of halos. Like, dang, we still don't even know what the main character, like, what his is. We have no idea. Yeah, I have noticed them saying that.
同じエトワール級の物理領域型でも、赤人玉緒と兜山みとりでは見かけの機能はまるで正反対です。
Well, yeah, one's very like physical enhancement, the other one is, I guess, I still don't know how to describe them. Like, they're spears, okay?
詳細な機能差は番号で分類されます。テンペスト4の4がそれです。この場合、物理領域型で4番目に分類に成功した機能になります。
Okay, interesting.
これは投資番号ですので、数字の大小は番号にカテゴライズされた機能の発見が早かったか遅かったかの違いだけで、機能差を表すものではありません。
Yeah, and I'm assuming it doesn't like correlate to power.
分類と番号、そしてハローの強度を表す4段階のグレードで HMI としての能力を記述するのです。4段階のグレードは単純に機能が強力であるかではなく、出力、精度、処理能力などの総合力で判定されたものですので、出力はすごいが精度が低いためグレードが低いといったケースもあり得ます。エトワール級 HMI とは全てにおいてある水準に到達した極めて優れた HMI と言えるでしょう。
It's kind of interesting because I feel like Soriko is a good example of why I don't really believe that, because I don't think her power is that strong, and she doesn't really have a good control of it, so why would she be an Etola?
それでは次へ行きましょう。
But I don't know. I mean, her power is cool. I mean, it is probably up there as far as powers go, but I mean, I don't know about it being like up there quite yet, you know? Okay, so we've already seen that. We're gonna go ahead and skip this. Let's see. Next, we need to go to my room, I believe. Late at night, I walked to the kitchen to get some coffee. Wow, fancy seeing you here, seeing as I'm trying to get onto your route. How convenient. I encountered Tamao, who didn't even try to hide her displeasure. Personally, I like that honest side of her.
君もコーヒーかね？
俺が何してようがてめえには関係ねえ。
もっと丁寧な言葉遣いしないとサクに怒られちゃうよ。
Dang, Zorko, what did you do to her? She like cried out in pain.
空子
Zorko had seemingly followed Tamao to the kitchen.
君までこんな時間に起きてくるとは珍しいな。
僕は起きてきたんじゃなくて、タマオちゃんが出てくるの待ってたんだ。タマオちゃん、コーヒーでしょ。ポットに入れておいたから持っていくといいよ。それとこっちはお夜食。
おサンドイッチツナとハムだ。こっちは何？
Ew, what kind of sandwich is this?
どうしてサンドイッチに豆が？
Tuna, ham, and cooked beans? I don't know about that one, Chief. I think that sounds not too great.
みとりちゃんとエルちゃんが作ってくれたんだ。後でお礼言ってあげて。
Well, remind me never to eat their cooking.
空子もあんがとう。
じゃあ頑張ってね。
Tamao went back to her room, the coffee and snacks in hand.
何事だったのかね。
タマオちゃん、明日は一般学科の試験があるんだ。実技の方はすごいんだけど、学科はちょっとだけ。
Yeah, I could definitely see that. She definitely seems like someone who's more better with their hands than their head.
かなり問題があるのだね。
Okay, I wouldn't say it like that, but sure.
ちょっとだけ問題っていうほどじゃなくて、ほんのちょっとだけなんだから。いつもサクが勉強を教えてあげてるんだけど、それでも試験の時は頑張らないといけなくて。
なるほど。万に一つでもクラウンのメンバーの成績が底辺ということになれば、保険に関わってしまうのだね。
底辺ってことはないよ。全然ないよ。
Why, are you at the bottom, Soriko? Soriko was a terrible liar. Anyone could tell that she was acting weird.
しかし、普段はサクが教えているという話だったが、サクもクラウンの筆頭、やるべきことは多く大変だろうに。
Oh yeah, Saku's probably very busy, but you know, that's just the kind of person she is. I could see her like trying to tutor people.
サク、友達思いだからよく言ってるんだ。5人で一緒に卒業できたらいいねって。あ、一緒って言っても僕たち7回生の方が先に卒業しちゃうんだけど。成田くんも一緒に卒業できたらいいね。
ああ、そうなれば素敵だろう。
It was definitely a precious, sparkling dream. It was sweet. I like that. All right. I guess we have to do this.
何？
So dumb. Alright, we'll skip to the next choice. Let's see, we need to go to the courtyard, because that is where she is. It was time for lunch. As I walked around the inner garden, I heard a cheerful, shrill voice. Okay, someone's really excited to see her. I mean, we did know that she gets people asking for her autograph. Tamao looked flustered. It must have been because of the junior girl who called her lady. The fearless Tamao seemed to have trouble handling underclassmen. Whoa, are you confessing to her?
それは読んだ。
Yeah, definitely.
読んだけど、あれ、相手間違えて。
No, it was definitely meant for you.
間違えてません。私、お姉様のことが。
素晴らしい。なんと心温まる愛の一場面。愛に決まった形などないのだから、これはこれで正しいのだ。
Yeah, I've played a few Yuri novels, so I know what that's about. Tamao had been cornered. She looked ready to
こ
burst.
れはいかん。卵が暴れると、あの清楚系下級生の乙女まで巻き込まれてしまう。こんなところにいたのかね。 約束をすっぽかされたかと思っていたが。
何？おお、そうだな。約束してたんだった。そうそう。
Dang, he's gonna pretend to be her boyfriend, huh? I gave her a way out and she clung to it.
この方、新しいエドワールの変人さん。
Wow. Hey! You don't even know me!
私の有名はすでに学園中に知られているらしい。さすが私だ。
悪いな。ちょっと戦略があって。さ、成田、行こうぜ。
Yeah, let's go.
二人でこれから何を。それは、
もちろん愛を語らいに行くのだよ。
I mean, that's probably the weirdest way you could put that, but sure, it works.
なんですか？お姉様が。
That is so insulting. You think of me as such that bad of a person, okay? Everyone who's hung out with me liked me, okay? Just the people who don't know me are haters. She dashed off quickly as an F1 car.
てめえ、なんてこと言いやがる。絶対許さねえ。次は間違いなくぶっ飛ばしてやるからな。
Oh, just wait. You'll be falling in love with me soon. Tamao ran off with tears in her eyes.
乙女の心とはやはり計りがたい。
Let's see. We are going to the hallway, I believe. I think we've already seen that, so we're going to skip it. Alright, next we are going to the plant, which I believe is where we finally enter her route, if we've done everything correctly. As I walked around the inner garden, I encountered Taigi Mikado. For once, he wasn't alone because a younger-looking girl accompanied him.
愛を語っているという様子ではなさそうだが。
Oh, what a shame.
ありがとうございました。これ友達ので見つからなかったらどうしようって。
見つかったのは君の努力のおかげだよ。
先輩が教えてくれなかったら絶対見つかりませんでした。本当にありがとうございました。
気にしなくていいよ。それと僕は先輩じゃない、学生じゃないからね。
Yeah, not yet, you frick. I saw the ending. I saw the ending of the common route. I know what you did. You joined, and then it ended. I was like, what the frick? The girl thanked him profusely, bowing over and over before walking away.
成田、見ていたのかい。人が悪いね。
落とし物を探すのでも手伝ったのかね。
手伝ったわけじゃないが、そうとも言えるのかな。まあ、うせ者を見つけるのは得意だよ。
What if that's to do with your power there? I glanced to the side and saw a truck leave the research building and drive down the road to the forest. There was a well-guarded gate on the road that led to the plant. Materials were often driven from the research building to the plant, but the structure's appearance made it hard to believe that they were used there.
ということは、やはりプラントの地下に何らかの施設があるのか。そちらが本命といったところだな。
どうかしたかい？考え事でも？
この学園は実にそそられる場所だと思っていた。
That's an interesting way of putting that, Narita. Okay. Let's see, I think we can skip to the next choice, right? Hopefully. It was an afternoon so peaceful it made you want to sleep. Over 2 weeks have passed since Mitori Kabutoyama's departure from the academy. The daily grind had made the momentary ripples of the sudden change fade. Even the most vivid memories faded over time, so it was no wonder that the students had started to move past it already. Oh, so we're finally... Okay, so this was what happens if we don't do what we did. So we're finally past it, baby. Let's go. I stood in front of a luxurious sofa. It had a natural leathery smell and an ergonomic design that made the sitter believe that they'd been embraced by feathery wings. I proudly sat down.
良い作りだ。重みに応じて適度に沈み込むクッションの具合、広々とした座席部分の作りといい、ふわりと立ち上る天下な香りといい。
I was in Okushima, the defenseless town built around a train station, instead of my well-guarded school. Several multi-purpose buildings stood along the river, and various stores sat next to the main road. The entrance to the arcade had been covered by text that said, "The Town of Anime, Higashiko," like a witch's chant praying for the success of the local subculture. The sofa had been placed in front of the arcade's entrance, effectively covering it. Since it was time for lunch, the arcade had a few people walking by. Some passed by right next to me, but for some reason not a single one looked my way.
よろしく頼むとしよう。
Someone walked up from behind me and then bowed their head.
かしこまりました。
It was Tamao. She seemed so unused to speaking politely that she sounded nervous. An unintentional act, no doubt, but I found it charming nonetheless. Her bashfulness was an excellent spice.
ではまず肩から。
As ordered, she... Wait, what? Why is she giving us a massage? She prepared to start the massage, but I raised my hand to
肩
stop
で
her.
はなく二の腕を頼もう。
二の腕か。いや、二の腕ですか。
She awkwardly reached for my upper arms.
それでは力が足りないな。こう挟み込むようにしなければ。
挟むって。でも手で挟んでも。
What do you mean? You're like one of the strongest people in school.
太ももがあるではないか。
そんな。
Oh my gosh, my guy. Please don't do this. Her innocent reactions reminded me of a child holding a sword for the first time. It spurred on urges within me that I knew I had to ignore. No way. You were ignoring something? One of your urges? Luckily, I was a man who excelled at self-denial. That's the biggest lie I've ever heard. This was merely a massage, a ritual meant to relieve fatigue from the daily grind.
何をしている？自ら口にした約束を違えるとは、クラウンの名とはそれほど軽いものなのかね。
Oh, okay, because this is because we chose differently. I chose not to make her do anything before. And like this way, once we won that fight, I guess she has to do what we ask her to? I'm assuming that's what's going on here? She opened her thighs and welcomed a man's upper arm into her nether region. A maiden's face flushed with embarrassment, she bit down on her lip to bear this ordeal. The usually rough Tamao shook like a young bird, and I found the sight extremely enticing. I felt like a little thorn had pierced into my chest. Sudden darkness. It felt like someone had turned off all the lights on the stage. The warmth dissipated as well. I felt like I had suddenly been transported to a pole, the crowds, Tamao's breathing, everything disappeared in the blink of an eye. She knocked the lights out of us? Yeah, you're dead. Get out of here. Nobody cares about you. Only a wraith who cursed my very being remained. Yeah, you got shot down, my guy. I cut him off with my words. I opened my eyes and caught sight of the familiar, clean ceiling. Okay, was that a dream then? I'm talking about the part where he's getting massaged. I didn't see any clocks from the bed, but my inner clock told me that it was about 2:30 in the morning, which seemed correct. What the? You can tell? It was the dead of night, an ominous time when the divine and abnormal were dominant. I want to know what part of that was a dream. Just that part, right? Or was it the whole thing? I was glad that our rooms had our own showers and bathrooms. I vomited until my stomach was empty. The unpleasant feeling in my chest only went away when nothing but gastric juice flowed out. I washed my mouth and looked at the mirror before me. The usual Shinri Narita stared straight back. Using the secret breathing technique of Geb, I stabilized my mind and body. The black oil-like remnants of the dream that clung to my head soon vanished. Takashi Hanazono had been my first target. The weight of a person's life remained the same regardless of whether they were a sinner spreading pain or a saint loved by all. It felt very light enough to scatter like paper in the breeze. Humans could kill their own kind without any problems. Humanity survived by killing, relying on, and taking from their kind without hesitation. There was no hesitation left in me. Shinryu Narita was merely a hateful, murderous avenger. He planned to accomplish his goals no matter what disaster his actions caused. I had 3 targets left. The traitors who killed my sister, father, and mother deserved the hammer of rage and justice I planned to use. Okay, so that gives us some information right there. Killed his father, right? So we know that, I don't remember his name. What was the other guy? It was the leader, right? And he was killed by Kurofune Genma. Okay. And so Kurofune, I'm guessing, took on the name of Mikado. Okay. We're learning stuff here. So I didn't know. I just thought that was his father, Kurofune. But technically not. I looked outside the window at the sleeping academy that was covered by a veil of darkness. Everyone was asleep and the silence was palpable. After focusing my mind on the hallway, neighboring rooms, and general surroundings, I confirmed that no one was moving and prepared to act. I was clad in all black, with my face under a mask. Okay, so that was a dream. Okay, I was just making sure, because I'm like, I don't know what scenario that would happen in. Looking back on my memory, wiped the last piece of the nightmare from my mind. Dang, I mean, if you're someone who can just go back to sleep and have the same dream and continue it, like, I respect that. Like, I've done that before, but it's very rare. Muttering that, I secretly vanished into the academy's grounds. Kurofune Mikado was not a simple target. I'd realized the quickest path to making him taste despair was to unveil the secrets of his castle, the academy, and so I've been trying to look for a way to do that since enrolling. However, that hadn't proved easy. Over a month had passed, but none of the clues I'd found had led anywhere. I hadn't discovered a single decisive fact. What was going on in the academy's depths? Ooh, are we going to the plant? I would be so hyped if we're going to the plant. I want to know what's going on. The most obvious suspect was that building, the crystalline concrete structure that peeked out of the forest like a spear. The plant. It was apparently a top-secret research facility that was off-limits to not only students, but most standard researchers as well. I hadn't tried to get into that tower yet. The reason was simple. It was too well guarded. Its thorough defenses, which were active 24 hours a day, made it impenetrable even to ants. Not even I could have gotten in without proper preparations. But as the saying went, nothing ventured, nothing gained. If I wished to obtain the Academy's secrets, I had to go there sooner or later. A round point of light slipped past the wall. After waiting for the guard holding a flashlight to pass, I melted into the shadows and began to move. Cloaked by the darkness, I jumped through the area and approached the secretive dark forest. Yes, we're finally going, baby. This was already getting good. Ishia would have called my actions reckless, but sadly, my loyal maid wasn't by my side. I also had some suspicions, particularly about Mitori Kabutoyama's voluntary leave. Yes, thank you, he agrees with me. Was that a precursor to something? Also, there was no telling how long I could hide my true identity from Kurofune Mikado. I knew he would figure it out sooner or later. I couldn't waste too much time at the academy on mere mischief. I had to act fast. The academy had an insane amount of security devices in it. Cameras, alarms, sentry guns. I had to make it past all of them as I rushed through the gate. Gosh, they have guns? Like, that's crazy for a school. You'd be like, okay, this is not normal. I felt so light that I thought I had grown wings. Thanks to my yoga training, I could control the depth of my sleep and make 2 hours of sleep have the same effect as 8, but that wasn't all. I had a good dream as well. Seeing that rough Tamao act so modest felt fulfilling. I don't know about modest, but sure. The sight had put me in a good mood. However, that made me realize I cared more about Tamao Akahito than I thought. Her challenging eyes, her fiery nature, her gentle, considerate attitude that was unfortunately hidden by her roughness. At first, I thought she was a lone wolf, but I soon realized that she probably protected her pack.
せんない話だ。初夏の夜気に酔ってしまった。復讐者が今さら人並みの行為を抱こうなど、おこがましいにも程がある。
I closed in on the entrance to the forest. Looking up, I saw a full moon shining down on me. This really was a good night. It was time to finally enter the secret area. The forest was strange. From the outside, it looked like a simple ginkgo forest, but when you entered, it instantly turned into something far more complex and varied. Tenkawa Noble Academy must have been built on an area that used to be a large forest, but the forest to its north was surely once a part of that. A road linked the research building and the plant, but it was better protected than anywhere else, making it past it seem nearly impossible. Thus, I decided to approach the plant by breaking through the deep, dark forest. It had security as well, but a lot less of it than the main entrance. Or at least that's what I thought until just a few minutes later. Even though I hadn't been in the forest long, my sense of direction failed.
これはなんとも危うい。この闇の深さといい、濃さといい、まるでシベリアの奥地かシュバルツシルトの魔女の森ではないかね。
There were forests in Europe that some people had claimed were sealed by the curses of real witches, and this one here just felt as ominous as any of
な
those.
るほどな。あの建物を囲む森にセキュリティが手薄なのは油断ではなく必要がないからか。
The forest clearly had a history to
恐
it.
るべき天然の妖怪だ。ごく浅い森だというのに、普通のものならものの数分で迷路に落ちて生涯出口を探してさまよいかねん。
Well, I'd imagine he has a few options. He could mark it and then come back another night. You know, he could like slowly like figure out how to get through it, or he might just get through it tonight. I don't know. Yeah, apparently he's just smart enough to do that. That's what I would do. I would mark it over time, you know, so you could slowly get through it. I, however, had a sense of direction akin to that of a bird of passage. This impassable fortress did nothing to hinder me.
あちらか。
Following the strand of moonlight leaking through the trees, I pictured the location of the tower beyond the deep darkness and took a step forward toward it. After a while in this verdant labyrinth, I stopped, for I saw something right ahead of me. I held my breath and quickly hid between the trees. Several tens of meters ahead, within darkness too deep for any normal person to see through, two silhouettes peeked in and out, like dogs chasing each other's tails. It was a murderous dance that left no room for either of them to catch their breaths. They moved from tree to tree, branch to branch at inhuman speeds. Without even stopping once, the two shadows aimed for a chance to bite at each other's necks. The faint smell of blood reached my nostrils. One of them had gotten hurt and was on the verge of defeat. Suddenly, the scales of the fight shifted. The once equal fight turned more and more one-sided. The one at a disadvantage gave up on fighting and retreated towards my direction. I quickly realized that it was a silhouette from some time ago. Oh, the one on top of the buildings? I'd met this creature on my first day while secretly exploring the grounds at night. I recalled that it had inhuman jumping abilities. However, it was wounded, and so its movements were now sluggish. I saw pale skin and underwear peeking out from under her clothes. At that point, I noticed something was following her. I didn't see what it was since it seemed to almost melt into the forest darkness. The sole proof of its existence were the sounds it made as it kicked off the trees. I couldn't perceive that foe. However, I knew anything capable of hurting the silhouette was clearly inhuman. Thus, I had to... Let's see. Do I leap out, or do I leap out and strike? I guess I'm just gonna play it safe and not leap out? Even I could see in the dark quite well. Following something that jumped from tree to tree like a puma seemed difficult. Hiding helped me hear the quiet sounds of springs and gears. It was coming. Something cut through the wind and, as I expected, headed straight towards the person in black. The moonlight revealed that it was an arrow. No, a crossbow bolt. I jumped out and quickly struck down the high-speed bolt that almost hit the shadowy person's head.
力に頼りすぎだと言わなかったか。
I'm guessing that's Tamao. The shadowy figure stood in place as though struck by
立ち
lightning.
止まるな。急いでこの場を離れろ。
The darkness made it extremely difficult to strike down the small bolts. I'd really only gotten lucky with the first one, so I didn't expect a second miracle. However, the person in black didn't move, and when I looked over to see what she was doing, I saw her collapse like a marionette with its strings cut. I ran up to her before she hit the ground, grabbed her, and jumped away. A second later, I heard bolts pierce the darkness as they approached us. It all seemed to happen in slow motion. The bolt bit into my back, but I ignored the pain and carried the collapsed individual away. Sensing enemies at my back, I rushed out of the forest with my new companion. Oh, frick. We lost that battle. The disorienting forest ended up being my ally. Even my mysterious enemies weren't immune to its effects. They'd lost us somewhere along the way. I just want to see if we can look at the scenes real quick. Can I see those from here? Doesn't look like I can view that. The scenario select, that's what I need. This choice involves instant death. Choose carefully. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know if the other choice would instantly kill us. I secretly took the shadowy figure to my own room. She remained unconscious. Blood flowed out from the wound on my back. The pain had made me realize how soft I'd been. Wouldn't I have defeated the mysterious crossbowman if I ignored her plight? I knew it wasn't the optimal decision, yet I focused on saving her. Ignoring my own wound, I carried the dark figure to my bed. Then I took off the form-fitting leather suit and removed her mask. It was Tamao Akahito. I'd expected as much since the earlier event in the forest. The wounds had exposed her underwear, which made it clear that I'd been dealing with a woman, and by that point I could recognize her figure and movements anywhere. The unconscious Tamao seemed defenseless, though in a different way from usual, as she faintly breathed through her pale lips. Guess we're not the only one trying to figure out secrets. I turned on the light and started treating her. However, before I could even think of the wounds riddling her body, I realized something else. She was truly beautiful. Her body was like a pristine work of art, though she lacked the miracle of beauty. And joy that was a voluptuous chest. Her toned frame more than made up for it. Her skin felt far softer than in my dreams. The guardian of the forest was quite a heretic for hurting something so beautiful. Most of the wounds were made by blades, though some were clearly the result of passing bolts. She was bleeding all over, staining her white underwear and skin. The deepest one was a bolt wound on her left leg. It was far worse than the others. The fact that she'd managed to move despite it left me at a loss for words. From what I could tell, they preemptively took out her leg to make her more susceptible to future attacks. Yeah, like dang, okay. Tamao Akahito was a true crown, someone who fully deserved the title, but the crossbowman was just as inhuman. The shallow wounds all over Tamao were proof of that. Amateurs often attempted to end battles in a single hit, but delivering gradual harm was a more surefire path to victory. The opponent noticed Tamao's strength, so instead of aiming for a one-hit kill, they switched to weakening her first like a hunter dealing with a raging beast. None of them seemed deep enough to impair her for life, but I couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't leave a mark. I wonder how much people like Tokino know about what's going on in there. Because I feel like if you go there trying to get help from her and she sees all these wounds, she's going to know it was you there, you know? After I finished treating Tamao, I focused on healing myself. I'd taken a hit on my back, so I couldn't stitch it. Instead, I just bandaged it tight. I didn't drop my guard, but thankfully no one had followed us. It looked like I had been worried for nothing. I looked behind me and saw Tamao stir. Walking to my bed, I welcomed the princess to
どうか
reality.
ね、玉尾。体は動くだろうか。
痛て、いろんなところがズキズキ。
She rubbed her eyes and checked her body.
包帯なんで？
What do you mean, why? Surely you remember what just happened, right? Like, you got your butt kicked by somebody else this time. It wasn't me.
手当てをしておいたが、傷は決して軽くない。朝まではここで休んでいた方がいいだろう。
Dang, we sure like having women in our bedroom. I mean, you're not the first.
そっか。成田が手当て。
Tamao's eyes suddenly widened after she finished looking over her wounds.
俺の体！
応急だが手当てをしておいた。
それはどうも。じゃなくて、寝てる間に。
Well, yeah, of course you have to, and I'm doing it from a medical perspective, okay? It wasn't anything malicious. The expression on her face made it seem like the world was ending. She looked at her body and me over and over, breathing heavily through her nose.
負傷しているのに性的に高ぶったのかね。いや、顔が赤い。
I don't think she's aroused.
血中酸素も不足しているのか。まさか頭を打って脳に支障が出たのでは。
脳に支障あるのはお前だ！俺が寝てるのをいいことに脱がして！乙女の肌を！
Oh my gosh. Despite being wounded, she jumped out of the bed and grabbed me.
脱がせた。じっくりと見た。たっぷりと吸った。
Hold up, my guy. Don't be saying that.
お前！
服を脱がさずに手当てをする方法があるのなら、高額のためにぜひとも教えてもらいたいものだが。
そういう話をしてるんじゃなくてだな。
Grinding her teeth, she looked at me with tear-filled eyes.
とても綺麗だった。
わ？
That caught her off guard.
隠す必要などないと私は思う。胸を張って満天下にさらして何を恥じることがあるのだろう。いや、張るほどもなくささやかだが、傲慢を信仰する私の魂にも訴えるほど玉緒の裸が美しかったのは事実だ。
俺の胸はそこまで小さくねえ。
Oh my gosh. I like how she's still like, she's still not trying to cover herself up either. One moment she was screaming, the next she was crying. Her expressions changed like the sights of a kaleidoscope, and I knew I would never tire
こ
of
れ
it.
がいわゆる乙女ハートにスカイフォールというやつだろうか。
うるせえ！黙ってろこの痴漢野郎！もうこうなったらてめえをもう二度と喋れない体にするしか。
ところで玉緒、つかぬことを尋ねるが、服はともかくマスクを脱がしたのは構わなかったのか。
She reached to grab me, shaking and red-eyed, but my words made her freeze.
お前どうしてマスク？俺。
She belatedly realized the situation. Her face grew pale and her voice shifted to a monotone.
マスクは外した。念のために言っておくと、夜歩きで玉緒と会うのは2度目だ。転校初日の夜にもあったな。黒ずくめの君を。
俺の正体を見た。
The tension was so thick that I felt an illusory blade at my neck. It was hard to believe that this was the same maiden who just made a scene over her body. She seemed like a machine, a clockwork construct with no room for emotion or thought. If necessary, Tamao Akahito would follow any orders. Right now, she must have been thinking how to deal with Shinri Narita, how to hide her goals and true identity as well as to silence me. She had the ability to turn my room into a scene of bloody strife in an instant. And so I had to pick my words carefully, as though I was dealing with nitroglycerin.
最初に出会った夜、私と軽くやり合った時、あの時の身のこなしで玉を疑っていた。はっきりと気がついたのは今夜だ。
I mean, that makes sense that it was her. I just had no idea. I didn't guess that at all. According to Miss Tokino's curriculum, HMIs with halos that enhanced physical abilities were relatively common, but most had low-grade enhancements. Even halos were limited by the laws of physics. Most physical enhancement halos couldn't enhance people beyond the limits of their body. It's a matter of cause and effect. Even if you had the power to destroy a skyscraper, your body and bones couldn't bear it. So in order to raise your physical prowess beyond that limit, you had to either increase your overall potential or shatter the rules themselves. And HMIs who could do something like that couldn't be counted on one hand, even in the academy, with those two of those being Tamao and Saku.
ところで玉尾、どうしてあの森に？
それはお前の方だろ、成田真理。こんな夜更けに黒ずくめで立ち入り禁止の森に忍び込むなんて。
では理由は聞かないでおこう。
Well, you know, we've done some things. My unexpected response seemed to calm Tamao
追
down.
及の代わりに警告させてもらおう。このスクールは危険な場所だ。おそらく玉尾が知っている以上に深入りすれば命はない。探るのはやめておくことだ。
そういうわけにいくかバカ。
I was actually surprised. The emotion in her instant response was far too clear. In that moment, she felt like a passionate flame, then a sharp razor. She restored her cold mask. It was an empty expression you wouldn't have expected from her usual rough self or from the straightforward girl I'd seen moments ago. Why had she approached the forest? Was it because Mitori had vanished? No, that made no sense. She had been investigating the academy before that happened. This was some sort of plot, a plan. But that didn't fit her personality at all, and so it seemed fair to assume she worked with someone. Yet, just a second ago, she'd momentarily shed her murderous demeanor and shown a glimpse of emotion befitting a maiden of her age. The intensity contained within it made it clear that Tamao Akahito had an unwavering will. It also made it clear that she would never stop, no matter what I said or did.
わかった。私はもう何も言わない。どうかしたのかね?
She sat on my bed and looked at me like I was a peculiar beast. She even stopped caring about the fact that she was exposing herself to me.
成田、お前おかしいぞ。頭のネジが緩んでるのか。
ずいぶんな言われようだな。私は愚かなほどにありきたりの人間だと思う。
最初から妙だった。前にも言ったな。俺はそういうのに鼻が利くんだよ。育ちのせいで。何やら嗅ぎ回ってるかと思えば、下り顔で警告して、スクールから手を引けとか言い出しやがる。
赤人玉緒は言って聞かせれば止まる程度の女なのか？
なんだって？
君はとっくに決めている。言って果たすのだと。それがどうしてなのかまではわからない。千の言葉も万の敵も今さら玉緒に道を違えさせることはできないだろう。私は揺るがぬと心を定めたものを引き止めるような無駄で無粋な真似をしようとは思わないだけだ。
Well, this is kind of nice, because I feel like now maybe they can work together depending on what their motivations are. I feel like hers are I don't really know what hers are. Obviously, she's probably working with somebody. So, might have to do with her family, maybe?
わけのわかんないこと言うなよな。毒気抜かれちまうよ。
誇りたまえ。己の命さえかけて良しとする道に出会えることなど一生に一度あるかないかだ。出会えたことが必ずしも幸福に結びつくとは限らないが、自分で気づいていようがいまいが、玉緒が決めてしまったならば、私にできることはもはや一つしかない。これだけは覚えていてほしい。私は一人の学友として君の身を案じ、君が危険に踏み込まないことを願っている。
バカ、何言ってやがんだ。誰が学友だ。お前みたいなやつ友達だとか思ったことねえから。
The Mao's face reddened like a lit match.
私の片思いか。それは寂しいことだね。
Regardless, I spoke nothing but the truth. I considered praying that she found joy on her path, but then I realized that a hateful avenger had no business wishing for anyone's bliss.
片思いとかって。お前。
She wanted to say something, but instead shook her head to get rid of herself of the thought. Then her expression turned grave.
成田、そんなことよりも、お前、本当は何を企んでスクールに来たんだよ。
I couldn't bring myself to answer that question. My goal was revenge. If Tamao found out...
いいか。
いいのかね。
Mao proudly backed away as if to make us even for me not pressing her any further.
成田は変なやつだし、腹も立つし、この玉のお肌を見られた以上、最後には始末しなきゃならないけど、悪いやつじゃないみたいだから。 ちょっとだけ猶予をやる。
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, everyone who gets to know him likes him. Not a bad guy. Strange. It felt like she was talking about someone not present.
メガネ違いというものだよ。私は救いようのない悪人だ。玉緒の勘違いはさておくとして、重要な問題がある。我々はお互いの秘密を知ってしまったわけだが。
お互い様、知らぬ存ぜぬってことにしようぜ。
Those words were also a warning. Play along or else.
その条件が成立するのは、互いの失うものが等価である場合だけだ。私たちの場合、互いに正体を明かせば、どちらの失うものが多いだろうね。
へえ、はっきり言えよ。持って回った言い方は好きじゃない。
単刀直入は望むところだ。今回の件に関し、私は取引を申し出る。玉緒の秘密を誰にも話さないことと引き換えに。
Please don't ask for something perverted.
取引じゃなくて、脅しの間違いじゃねえの。
解釈は好きにしたまえ。
ま、お前とやり合うのは厄介だ。取引で黙ってるっていうのならいいぜ。何でもくれてやるよ。大したものは持っちゃいないけどな。
No, Tamao. Don't say that. He'll find something. Believe me, you have things he wants.
何でもいいのか。では、玉緒をもらおう。
Oh, okay. Narita, you're actually being wholesome. Okay. You surprised me a little bit.
なるほど。玉緒が欲しいか。それならすぐ用意できるし。って、
My unexpected knockout punch shattered her composure. Her expressions changed at a rate hard to keep up with. After taking a while to think, she opened her eyes wide and shook her head as if she didn't want to believe what I was saying. Then she rolled out of bed and dragged herself back to the window with inhuman speed. If there was a race where competitors had to sit, she'd no doubt
何
win.
でもくれてやると聞いたように思うのだが。
もちろんくれて。いや、やらない。無理無理無理。
Muddy, muddy, muddy. She made a cross with her hands and shook her head. How amusing. I didn't expect Tamao to be such a comedian.
では仕方ない。玉緒の素性をエルに教えてこよう。
待て待て待て、マジ待って、かなり待って。誰かに話したりしたらただじゃおかねえからな。
ただじゃおかないというと、どうなってしまうのかね。
半殺し。いや、7割殺しだ。マジボコボコだぞ。
70%, huh? Is that because that's all you could do? I'm pretty sure you could do 0% because you didn't even land a hit on me. She actually stood up and started shadowboxing.
目の不要になる。
Oh my gosh, yeah, you're just feeding it to him. So you just remembered, huh? Tamao jumped back into my bed and hid under the sheets. The cool face she'd shown just a few moments ago was nowhere to be found. How amusing. I hadn't felt so jovial in quite some time.
7割殺しとは恐ろしい。だが、3割残るなら、それは案外。
Shut up, he's considering it.
ちょっと待って。やめろ。言っちゃダメ。
She bit her lip and looked around, probably for a way out of the situation. I don't know, you're the one who said he could have anything, so that was your mistake. She clawed up the wall, rolled on the floor, messed around with the sink's tap, clung to the fridge, then raised her arms up and walked like a crab. What? What was that last part? Finally, after looking dead for a moment, she cracked a grin, still sweating.
俺は無数の男を手玉に取ってきた魔性の女。
I mean, what about women, though? You did have some female admirers. Thus began a weird play that Tamao penned, directed, and starred in. I wanted to cheer her on, but I figured it would have ended early if I did.
この100万ドルの肉体に触れたいのならそれ相応のことはしてもらうぜ。
That was very low-key. She lay down on the bed and crossed her legs, making sure I couldn't see under the sheets. Her pose was akin to that of a maiden that countries waged war
も
over.
ちろん約束は守るとも。この成田真理、八幡大菩薩にかけて、玉緒の秘密を誰にも喋らない誓おう。となると、見返りとしてその肉体をいただかないと。
Shut up.
いただきます。
No. I joined my hands and lightly bowed. Tamao, who had been pretending to use a smoking pipe, seemed confused by that. While she was off guard, I pushed her down.
伝説の養父の正義はどれほどのものか。まずはその豊満ではない美しさを。
I moved my hands in front of her and tried to remove the sheets. Just punch him. A sudden knock on the door interrupted us. Oh, thank you, Eru. A neighbor heard us, apparently. It had to have been Eru, since she was the only other person with a room on first floor. I think it's supposed to be on the first floor. Saku, Soriko, and Tamao were the second one. There were 4 rooms on the second floor, but the last one belonged to Mitori. She had been replaced by Taigi after she vanished. They actually put those symbols.
こくり。
Tamao shook her head to emphasize that I had to hide her presence. I nodded in agreement. I had to lie. I knew Arrow wouldn't dig too deep, so I figured a blatant lie was more than
う
enough.
るさかったようなら申し訳ない。ネ
Oh,
ットで男女の性交に関するビデオを鑑賞していたのだ。
Narita. I mean, that really fits your cover just fine, but still, what? Why?
最悪です。エロ動画見るならヘッドホンをしてください。これ常識。
Arrow, I don't want to hear you talking about this. She clicked her tongue but accepted my answer
以後
nonetheless.
心がけるとしよう。爽快な開放感が失われるのが惜しいがね。
We heard her walk away and shut the door to her room, but we still remained quiet for a while after.
さっきのは悪ふざけにしても。
冗談だと思う。なかなかに愉快だった。いや、もちろん玉尾が綺麗だと思ったのは。
お前なんか犬に食われて道端の子に混じって通りすがりのトラックに引かれて消えちまえ。
I like how it censored it when she said it. I pacified her while looking back at the fun I just had.
ぜひまたやろう。
Had I said that out loud?
さて、悪ふざけはこの程度にしておこう。玉尾も落ち着くといい。
落ち着いてられるか。この変態お前いつだって変態だ。最初に会った時だって俺のこと恥ずかしめやがって。おまけに人の真似して夜中にこそこそ出歩きやがって。一体何を企んでやがる。
玉尾。
Steam rose from her head as she shook it in anger. Ignoring that, I looked right at her face. She backed away a bit.
私は玉尾の秘密を誰にも決して漏らさないと誓う。その代わり、私のことも詮索無用で願いたい。
いいぜ。お互いに深入りなしってのが筋だよな。
その引き換えとして、私は玉尾がこの学園の秘密、暗部を探るのに力を貸したいのだ。
Okay, finally.
どうか。
This was what I wanted. She made a strange expression.
お前の目的もスクールの秘密だってことか。
詮索は無用だと言ったろ。
I extended my hand towards her, but she simply stared at it.
玉尾の目的が何であれ、私の望むものがどういうものであれ、このままでは二人ともたどり着けない。君が友情を抱いていなくても構わないのだよ。これは遊戯ではなく共闘だ。私たちはほんの一時靴輪を並べて同じ方向へと進む。いつか道を違える時が来る。どうだ、玉尾。
Surprised, she hesitated for a few seconds, but resolutely taking my hand.
どうもよろしくお願いします。
And so, in a bid to accomplish their goals, the Avenger and the Hound crafted a brief duet. The ashen night sky changed into a light purple and then a fiery red. A new dawn was rising. The hectic night had finally reached its end. Tamao snuck out of Narita's bed, dragging her wounded body away. She realized the danger of the others finding out that she had been in Narita's room the whole night, so she tried to get back to hers as soon as possible. Speaking of the owner of this room, he'd fallen asleep on the sofa after letting Tamao out of bed.
この状況でのんきに寝てやがる。人の気も知らないで。俺が寝首かいたらどうすんだよ。
He seemed stranger and stranger to her by the day. The weird things he told her last night left her grasping for answers. Beautiful, cute. That was the first time someone had praised her so wholeheartedly. Where Tamao was from, beauty was merely considered another card to play.
お前みたいなやつ、初めてだよ。
He'd also suggested that they investigate the secrets of the academy together, and
私は一人の学友として君の身を案じ、君が危険に踏み込まないことを願っている。
学友。
she didn't want him to say that. She could understand if it came from Saku or any of the other girls. They knew nothing, so they obviously believed her to be a fellow student. Shinri Narita, on the other hand, was a sharp weirdo. He must have understood why Tamao snooped around the academy. Despite that,
俺はなんだっけ。そう、ロンリーソルジャーなんだよ。
I'll say, she's not like part of the AHM or something weird, is she? Ero had explained that expression to her. The girl had a tendency to pick up various phrases from her manga and games, and Tamao had heard her use that term to describe her. What was Shinri Narita's goal? There was no doubt he was hiding something. However, she felt like he was unlike her employers.
まさか、マジに俺の体を狙って？
Most likely. Yeah.
いや、そんなバカな、成田が俺を、そんなバカな。
I wouldn't say that's his only goal, but yeah, I'm sure he'll try to do something along the way. You know Narita. She denied her own words with all her might.
意外と学友だから心配したってのが本気でいいやつだったりするのかな。
Depends on what you mean by nice guy. He's nice to some people. Others, he shoots them. No, that was a bad way to look at it. He was a perf who fondled on first meeting, a weird freak whose motives remained a mystery. She couldn't lower her guard around him. The fact that he discovered her secret was a major failure on her part. It was impossible to predict his actions. If he did something that drew the Academy's attention to them, that'd be the end of her. She had gotten so close, yet it would all go to waste. It's probably safer to cooperate with him and keep an eye on him, regardless of what his goals were.
俺のことを助けたんだよな。
Impossible. In Tamao's world, it was normal to cut off any dead weight, yet he put himself in danger to save Tamao's life.
余計なことは考えるな。スイッチを入れろ、俺。仕事の最中に気を取られたら命取りになるぞ。よし、こんな変態のことなんてもうどうでもいい。爆睡している今のうちにさっさと出ていこうっと。
As she walked to the door, she looked back at the sofa as if she'd forgotten something. Narita was still fast asleep, and so she wondered how defenseless the proud pervert was in that state. A bit interested, she snuck towards the sofa. He slept with his face facing the back of the sofa, so that was the only way to get a good look at it. She closed in on him and extended her neck. The man has a weird set of skills. Drawing too close in the wrong way could have alerted him. Keeping her distance and her heart steady, she looked at him. A bit closer. Just a bit closer.
俺、何やってんだか。
She returned to her senses when she spotted one of Narita's eyes in his nose. Why was she interested in his sleeping face? She had been acting like some schoolgirl. Well, I hate to tell you, you are one. But that's beside the point. Well, she was, but that wasn't the real her. I mean, you're still your age. For whatever reason, she fell off that night. In fact, she hadn't been at her best since Narita transferred in. He drove her insane. Ignoring the pain, she picked up her clothes and quickly got dressed. Then she shook off any unnecessary thoughts like a dog covered in water and escaped the room. I felt Tamao walk away. I'd woken up when she squirmed to get out of bed, but her silence made it clear that she wanted to sneak out. I didn't want to ruin it for her, so I just kept my eyes closed. Tamao stuck around for a lot longer than I expected, but after mumbling some things I couldn't quite make out, she left the room. I heard a light sigh as the door closed. It seemed that I was all alone again. I knew full well that I had chosen a dangerous path. Joining forces to cooperate against an academy seemed logical, but it came with the risk of her discovering my goals and identity. The best course of action was to act like nothing had happened, and that was exactly what I would have done if she hadn't said those words.
そういうわけにいくかバカ。
It was a scream without a hint of falsehood in it, and gave me the urge to help her. Why though? I asked myself that question, but I failed to figure out a clear answer. I had other choices, but what kept me from choosing them? Was I just being sympathetic, or had I done it because I considered her a friend? Friend, eh? How foolish. Shinri Narita was an avenger, and the academy was merely a means to reach his target, a stage on which he planned to enact his revenge. I think he's trying to say that he's literally Sasuke Uchiha. If I warmed up to it so much that I had formed attachments, had I not also developed new weaknesses? I had to be more careful than ever before. I couldn't allow Tamao to discover my true identity. The person I'd invited in had left, making my small personal space feel more quieter than ever. Come morning, I made my way to Miss Tokino's lesson in the large classroom where I found Tamao meekly sitting at her seat with the other crowns. She usually jumped into the class moments before it began, but today she's arrived a whole 15 minutes early. Hell must have frozen over.
どうかしたの？朝から様子がおかしいわよ。
心配事とか相談事とかあったら力になるよ。
別に何でもねえてば。きっと病気です。ノーノ。
Tamao had been acting strange since our breakfast in the dorm, which drew the attention of her considerate friends. She stared at nothing, spaced out a lot, and walked so unsteadily that she crashed into walls multiple times. Last night's events must have bothered her. I worried that she might fail to keep our secret for long. I had to calm her down.
Ohayo, Tamao. Sakuya wa taihen dewa nakatta ka ne?
Ancient wisdom said that all illnesses started in the mind. Worry ruined the balance of the body and freed up room for physical ailments. Thus, I cheerfully called out to her, hoping to dispel her gloominess. Yeah, that was like the worst thing you could have said. Now she's thinking about last night. Tamao jumped up like she'd found an explosive with only a few seconds left on the timer, making the others turn to look at me. A day's worth of expressions graced her face within half a second. She was trying to figure out what I meant by something.
私が起きる前にいなくなっていたので心配したが、ちゃんと投稿していたようで安心し。
Uh-oh. She realized that none of the somethings were good, so she jumped out of her chair and closed my mouth.
やめろ！
To outsiders, it looked like we were just playfully messing around. The gap between us had clearly closed, so the other girls looked at us with perplexed eyes.
一体何事？新手の HMI による攻撃？
Is that a JoJo reference? No, I know it's a JoJo reference. It's not the work of an enemy stand. Really, game? You're gonna do this to me? You're gonna put a JoJo reference in here? I don't even watch JoJo, but I know that reference.
昨日まで成田くんとは喧嘩ばかりしてたのに、いつの間にか仲良くなれたんだ。
そんなご都合主義があるわけねえと言いますか。ぶっちゃけデジャブ。自分先々週ぐらいに空子から似たような目に遭わされた記憶がある気がします。冗談きついです。マジなら最悪。超最悪。
That's the goal. We're gonna make all the girls fall in love with us.
違うってだから成田の口元に蚊が。
ペロ。
Mel used quite a lot of force, so I reflexively stuck out my tongue and licked her palm. Oh, how I love the taste of a maiden's skin in the morning. Okay. Tamao turned pale and jumped back, while Saku pointed at me. That was rather rude. I honestly wanted to suggest she rethink her actions.
成田、朝から悪ふざけのしすぎは困ります。
I think you're just jealous, Saku. I think you want me to lick your palm, huh?
すまない。玉尾の反応が愛らしいので、つい舌が出てしまった。
As Tamao fell silent, the others parted like the Red Sea.
愛らしい？いえ、これはこれで成田らしいかも。でも、そんなまさか。
そうなの。 まさか玉緒ちゃんも。
A complicated, uncomfortable silence. Luckily, Eru broke
めっ
it.
ちゃのろけ最悪。
え
マジ最悪。
I don't think Narita's a normie. With that, the flow of time resumed. Tamao glared at me, then backed off to form a circle with the others and tell them something. Class was about to start, so I took my usual seat next to Saku, but this time another man also sat nearby. Is it Taigi?
今のはガールズトークというやつかな。
Girls talk. Taigi Mikado, the son of Kurofune Mikado, as well as the seventh Etola, who joined us 2 weeks ago.
一夜明ければ君と玉緒くんは随分と仲良くなっている。不思議なことだね。
Yeah, that's gonna kind of give us away a little
昔か
bit.
ら男女の仲とは不思議なものだというらしい。
Taigi and I spoke to each other like we've been friends for a decade.
落ち着いて玉緒ちゃん。教室で暴れたらまた備品壊して時の先生に怒られちゃうよ。
Tamao overheard us and started to snap, but Soriko stopped her.
男女の仲というよりも人の心というべきだろうね。かくも騒がしく不可思議なものは他にはない。
Gosh, it's still weird seeing him in our class.
なるほど。確かにその通り。
騒ぎといえばちょっとした噂があるんだが。成田、君は夜更かしをする方かな。
Nope, wouldn't be me.
何でも昨夜学園の敷地内でトラブルが起きたらしい。遅くまで起きていたのなら何か見たり聞いたりしなかったかな。
He muttered that as though it was no big deal, then looked at me with the cold and completely uncaring eyes I'd grown used to over the past 2 weeks. Like always, he tried to peer deep into my heart.
昨夜は日付が変わるまで起きていたが、残念ながら寮の近くでは何事もなかった。
Thus, I donned the mask of the normal me.
だろうね。その噂によると騒ぎは森でだそうだ。
では知る由もないな。
Tamao overheard us and tensed up, but I pretended not to notice.
大義が興味を持っているのであれば、私も耳をそば立てておくとしよう。何か手がかりが得られたなら、我が友人にすぐさま伝えるために。
Ah, yes, friend. Yeah, that's what we are. We're
ただの
friends.
噂だよ。気にするほどのものじゃない。
Are they trying to imply that he was the one out in the forest? I think that's kind of what we're hinting at here. Soon enough, Miss Tokino entered the classroom.
それでは本日の講義を始めます。
Yes, let's. Thus, our everyday life continued. Okay, so this sounds like it's going to be something exciting right here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the video because I don't know if they're still going to do chapters or how that's going to work. Or else normally I like to stop at a chapter. But I think we've done quite a bit. This was the first kind of introduction to Tamao's route, and it's already been quite a bit of stuff going on. I've really enjoyed it. Excuse me. I've been really enjoying Tamao's route so far. Actually, more than I thought I would. Tamao's not really been like my favorite girl or anything. I mean, she seems like a kind of cliche character at first, but it's been nice to get to know her better. Obviously, she has her own motivations, and now that we're working together with her, I'm sure that'll open up some more deeper conversations. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you in the next episode.